Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Mary Francelin Diola. You can call me Franz. I am taking up Master's of Education, major in English Language Teaching, and I am here making a video to share or to provide you with a little of my knowledge regarding review of the related literature. So, to start off, what is review of related literature? On the slide, you can actually see two definitions of RRL, which is in the old definition, is the selection and annotation of available documents, both published and unpublished, which contain information, ideas, data, and evidence related to the topic that a person proposes to research on. In the new definition, it's the use of ideas in the literature to justify the particular approach to the topic, the selection of methods and demonstration that this research contributes something new. So the review of related literature, or RRL, is an important component of the research process and the research itself. We will know why later on. However, there are two ways of looking at the RRL. We have the point of view of the researcher and the point of view of the reader. So we have different purposes for each point of views. First off, let's start with the researcher. It helps shape the research. Earlier studies can help you identify a research problem. It broadens your knowledge in the research area, provides important clues or leads to help you determine the topic of inquiry, shows what is already known versus what needs to be known, which is actually why, in the first place, why we do research, right? Also, it provides clues or leads with regards to the theoretical framework and methodological approach, provides the foundation and justification for your research problem, and helps you frame the valid research methodologies, approach, goals, and research questions for your study. Now, on the point of view of the reader, the purposes, it provides you the bigger picture. It shares with the reader the results of other studies that are closely related to the proposed study, relates the proposed study to the ongoing conversation on the topic, provides the reader a benchmark for comparing your study with the other studies. It helps the reader identify and appreciate the value-added information of your study. So, what's actually the purpose of RRL? It's actually the same question I ask myself because, to be honest with you, I'm not really familiar with research. How it's done, what are the things that we need to do, what are the steps, what are the templates, and whatnot. However, on one website I was able to check, it says here that it is important for a researcher to have a comprehensive and relevant body of supporting materials to his research work. RRL provides insight to the theoretical or conceptual background of the study, provides the rationale of the framework of your study. It reviews the related materials and helps the researcher to gather valuable data and ideas that can guide him in his own research. Also, reviewing the related literature requires the researcher to make an in-depth readings of both the research and conceptual literature. So we have what we call research literature, which pertains to published or unpublished reports of actual research studies done previously and usually referred to as studies. Theses and dissertations are examples of studies. On the other hand, we have conceptual literature, which refers to articles, books written by authorities giving their opinions, experiences, theories, or ideas about a given topic or subject. In most research studies, conceptual literature is referred to as literature. So related literature may be classified as local if printed in the Philippines, and foreign if printed outside the country. And on the other hand, related studies are classified as either local if the study was done in the Philippines, of course, and or foreign, again, if it's done outside the country. Now, on the next slide, you can see here the systematic RRL, to where we have an input, to where we gather data. When we mean data, we mean journals, conference proceedings, non-referred materials, dissertations or thesis as in plural thesis. So we also have internet-based sources where most of us would actually be referring to. Now, once we gather our data, we actually process it, because whenever we gather data, we actually annotate, we highlight things, we get the important details or information that we need for our research or for our study. Now, when processing, you should actually know your literature, to wherein you should know how to describe and how to summarize the things that you have gathered. Second, you need to analyze and synthesize. When we say analyze and synthesize, it means we do compare and contrast. We also do combine and integrate. Lastly, we evaluate, to where we will now be filtering, selecting or deselecting the things that we need to put on our paper. We also have to identify the relevance to our study. So pretty much we're actually filtering the data that we have gathered. Now lastly, or the last step, would be output, wherein after we filter things or the ideas or the information, we can already exhibit the impact of the body of the literature as a whole. What did you learn from the literature? So we have a few tips, not a few, but there are numbers of tips that you may want to include on your review. So first, you have to consider what material is to be extracted from a previous study or journal article. Second, potential points to be extracted for RRL are, of course, problem being addressed. Second, central topic or purpose or theme of the study. Briefly state information about the sample, subjects of the study, review key results, conclusions of the study, and your methodology, strengths, and or flaws. Now, when sourcing, you always have to make sure that we just don't cut and paste or copy and paste. For us to avoid plagiarism, we should review the literature, do not reproduce it. Refrain from copying verbatim. When we say verbatim, it means word per word. What authors and researchers say. Paraphrasing the literature in your own words also helps you analyze the text, or helps you or gives you more analysis of the text. So whenever you paraphrase, technically it's not considered as, just copying and pasting. So if you know what I mean. And also make sure that the source or text or idea is also indicated on your notes. That's very, very important that we properly source or cite our sources. Okay, so just a fact. We have 5 C's of evaluating the web sources, because nowadays we always refer to the internet and researching. Who has the time to go to the library and research through books, So, which is why I've included it on my slide, to where it'd be important to first, we should make sure that the source is credible, the content, currency, construction, and connectivity. So I may not be able to provide you pretty much all of these 5 C's are self-explanatory. So I believe you guys are very, very smart, so I don't need to further discuss these 5 C's. So the next slide, just another fun fact, if in any cases that you do not know these things. So just have to take a look at it on the slide. You can refer to it on the Dropbox. This may be helpful, this may be not, but I've included this one on my slide. Now, also, just one thing, I know that you know this, but for others who don't, please refer on getting ideas, or researching, or using Wikipedia if you would be doing a research or doing a thesis or article or journal, because Wikipedia is not credible. You can actually notice that at the end of the content that you were looking at, there is a field, or not a field, or what we call, I'm not really sure what it's called, but under the content, there's actually a thing there which says edit. So which means the information that you may be reading may be or may not be true, because then again, the content of the site is just editable. Make sense? Now, here are some of the characteristics of the review. So we are delimiting the review. So 1, the text of the review should be brief and to the point. So since this is technical writing, we would like to avoid any flowery words. As much as possible, we need to be on point. So to ensure brevity and conciseness, you have to summarize or paraphrase important points. Avoid direct quotations of the author's ideas or the results of the studies you are reviewing. 2, have a plan on how you are to present the review. Prepare an outline before finally writing the review. So outlining is very much helpful for us, not only when doing a research, actually give us steps, or it guides us to where a thing should go. So prepare an outline before finally writing the review. This will ensure coherence and unity of ideas presented. The problem you're going to work on can serve as your outline for discussion of related literature and studies that are relevant to your proposed research. 3, emphasize relatedness. You just don't want to put out there information that's definitely not related to the research or to your concerned study. Keep the reader aware of the manner in which the literature you are discussing is related to your problem. Try to point out what the relationship is. 4, review the literature, don't reproduce it. So again, refrain from copying verbatim what authors and researchers say. Critically review and discuss the literature in relation to your research work. So in the next slide, we have different approaches to writing the review. We have chronological, wherein the literature and studies are presented according to the year they were written. So what you can see, there's actually, I'm sorry for the typo errors that you can see. However, this is the sample outline, introduction, recent literature and studies, least recent literature and studies, synthesis of the review. We also have what we call thematic literature, Literature and studies with the same findings are grouped together. So these are the same findings. So it's just the same thing: introduction, studies on independent variable, studies on major dependent variables, and then synthesis of the review. Also have country of origin. So literature and studies are categorized based on the country or continent where they came from. So of course, introduction, foreign studies, local studies, and then synthesis of the review. So when writing the review, here are some notes that we need to consider or that we need to remember. It is in the introduction where you make your readers aware of your approach in presenting the related literature. It is the synthesis where you specify the uniqueness of your study vis-a-vis the literature you had just discussed in the review. So by the way, vis-a-vis, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. It's a French word which would mean like face-to-face. So these are my references. On the next slides, you can actually see some sample RRLs. So it can actually vary depending on to your discipline or depending on your field of study. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. Thank you very much, and you have a great day. Bye.